Another weekend, another step closer to getting team sports back in America. This is the next best bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy. We had UFC Fight Night again this past weekend, Brett, but I know you were a little more interested in that MLB exhibition game that was going on.
Hell yeah. I mean, first of all, my biggest takeaway was well, actually, the Mets and Yankees played twice, so let me start with that. But in the first game, Clint Frazier was wearing a mask batting. He was wearing it in the field. He hit a monster home run. So that was interesting to watch, but it was good to see baseball back in U.S. soil.
Absolutely, it was. And with the MLB season approaching this upcoming week, we are going to give you more of a preview and maybe even some picks in next episode, in episode 62. Episode 61 is going to just be another episode of context of where we are at right now. Now, let's jump into hindsight with Higgins, Brett. We only had one bet. Well, I only had one bet. I put 2 units down on a parlay between Figueredo and Pantoja. Now, Figueredo absolutely destroyed Benavidez. I can't believe he lasted as long in the first round as he did. Figueredo had four chokeholds on him and before finally getting him to tap on that final one. Pantoja lost in a unanimous decision, though, so I did not win the parlay.
Ah, that sucks. That's why you don't parlay, I guess. That's what they say, right?
Yeah, that's what I get for trying to turn minus 200, minus 230 odds into positive odds, which I got it at plus 115.
Yeah.
But to each their own. I mean, there is another UFC coming up this weekend. 16 fights in this one, Brett, so it's a very large card. Maybe I'll find myself back there this weekend. Maybe I'll just watch for fun. I'm not sure yet.
Is this the last Fight Island or is there one
I,
more
bel
after it?
I believe there was only four at Fight Island, so I
Okay.
think this is the last one.
All right. Well, Fight Island was fun. We had our fun on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi.
Well, let's jump into Beginner's Boulevard, though. Our term of the week is reduced juice. Now, reduced juice is basically when you the sportsbook changes the vig on a game from minus 110 to minus 105 or something like that. So if you bet and you win, you would receive more of a return in a sense.
There you go. In the better's advantage. That's always good. So, reduced juice is a positive thing to look for.
I was looking for an example with the upcoming UFC Fight Night, but I'm not seeing any odds for these 15 matchups yet. So maybe as the show goes on, we'll figure out something to give you an example with reduced juice. But let's jump back out of this. There's a ton to cover. PGA Tour, Brett, we had the Memorial. Last episode, we talked about Jack Nicklaus saying he was going to shake the hand of the winner. John Rahm ended up winning, but we got some interesting news on Sunday during the event when Jack Nicklaus revealed he and his wife already had coronavirus. I mean, they're both about 80 years old. They had it from mid March until middle of April. It was about a month long that they had it. And he said his wife had no symptoms, but he had a sore throat.
Yeah, that's a little scary, but I guess he didn't. That's why he wasn't worried about shaking anyone's hand. He might have had the antibodies, so I guess it makes a little more sense.
That's a little bit more context there. Now, John Rahm did win the event. He won the Memorial. I didn't watch, so I'm not sure if he actually did shake Jack Nicklaus' hand or not. But Brett, there was some reshuffling this week after the tournament. Who is the number one golfer in the world right now? Do you know?
Well, I'm gonna guess John Rahm
Yep, it's John Rahm. Good
John
job.
Rahm.
Context clues.
There we go. So yeah, John Rahm. Was it Justin Thomas before this weekend? Maybe.
I'm not sure who was number one before that, Brett. I just saw the headline that John Rahm took it. I did see he is only the second Spaniard to ever receive the number one ranking, with Steve Ballesteros doing it back in the 80s, I believe it was. But interesting news out of the PGA. Some questions were answered with Tiger Woods playing. A lot of more questions arose as he didn't play all of that great. So we'll see how his game shapes up in the coming weeks if he has fully returned or if he does take another bit of a hiatus again.
Yeah, well, he made the cut, and there was a big odds boost out. Tiger was plus 100 on the FanDuel Sportsbook odds boost to make the cut. So that's probably a good amount of people made their money on that bet.
I can imagine if you see Tiger Woods at plus 100 to make the cut. I'd have taken that bet if I had seen it. But Brett, let's jump into the MLB because we did say that we had heard that the Blue Jays were going to be able to play in Toronto on episode 60. It turns out Toronto denied them the rights to play in Toronto. So now they're looking for a stadium.
Yeah, I think Buffalo makes a ton of sense. That's their AAA team. Um, and then I think I saw Dan Schulman, who is obviously with ESPN. He's a Canadian as well. Say something that they might just look at more MLB ready minor league ballparks. And I worked last year in Charlotte, North Carolina, and let me tell you, there is a beautiful ballpark in downtown Charlotte. Um, if they want to move south for I guess the summer, a little bit different than the winter birds in New York and Boston.
I'll tell you, one summer I called play-by-play for a college prospects league in Syracuse, and they played at the Chiefs Stadium, which is pretty MLB ready. The facilities are very nice there, and it's not that far of a trip from Toronto either. That you mentioned Buffalo. Syracuse could potentially be on that radar as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere closer to the Canadian border than,
Yeah,
say, Charlotte.
yeah. I mean, it sounds like they were looking at maybe their spring training facility, but Florida's numbers are a little bit. Yeah, it depends. Like if you want proximity, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, all those places make a ton of sense. If you want the best stadium, go to the best stadium, wherever that may be. Could be in Texas, could be in Charlotte, could be in anywhere, really. It could be in Salt Lake City, Utah. Who knows?
Now, Brett, I know you've poked fun at me for having an MLB draft basically at the very beginning of this coronavirus pandemic. Well, I had a second one today. This is the keeper league that I've been in with family for years, and I was a bit surprised that there was going to be a fantasy draft, but I made my keeper selections in time. I got my draft in, and I'm liking my team. We'll see how it is for the 60 game season.
Good luck, Higgins. I think this draft at least you waited till close to the season. You probably wanted to wait up until the day of to pick your team, but hey, 4 days early, not too bad, Higgins. It makes more sense than February.
I'm chasing that trophy, that is for sure. But let's jump into the NBA here. I mean, there's been some interesting news. One thing that I found curious and I found was Matisse Thybulle YouTube channel that he started. He is vlogging his experience within the NBA bubble, and I found it pretty interesting. He had 3 episodes up when I watched it, I believe, on Saturday, and it gives you a decent insight into the food, the testing procedures, and really what's available for the players on this Disney campus.
I've enjoyed a lot of the bubble content, to be honest with you. All the beer shotgunning and guys tweeting out their haircuts and their golf swings. And I've seen Taco Fall riding a bike around Disney World. So
Did you see
there's been,
Taco Fall and Ennis Cantor on the same volleyball team?
ooh, that's a good
That's unfair.
volleyball team.
That's unfair.
That's a really good. Wow, that's a good sport for them. If the whole basketball thing doesn't work out, maybe they could go play
Whole ba-
beach volleyball.
they probably don't even have to move much. They could just stand there at the net.
Not bad, but yeah, good for Matisse Thybulle. Keep him busy. I've seen a few other players, do some of these vlog things as well. So, it's the bubble's been a lot of fun, to be honest. It looks pretty cool.
Dwight Howard may have had a little too much fun, though. He apparently got snitched on in the anonymous tip line for not wearing his mask out in the campus, but he kind of took to IG to apologize for what that was, but also wanted to remind people to pay attention to what's happening outside the bubble with Breonna Taylor and some of the other social justice movement things that are going on right now. And he tried to turn it into a positive by saying he's going to donate the remainder of his $700,000 salary that he is getting from this bubble to various programs like that. And he's not alone. Drew Holiday also very significantly made this statement, and he's donating his $5.3 million to different nonprofits, charities, in I think it was 5 different cities, as well as black owned small businesses in 10 different cities. So $5.3 million, and a superb example being set by Drew Holiday. And I think that's a good way by Dwight Howard trying to turn his negative PR move into a positive in a sense.
Yeah, no, that's all good news, and that's really great of Drew Holiday to give back to the community like that. That's amazing. Some on the court stuff to keep an eye on. Torrey Craig and Gary Harris are have joined the bubble for the Nuggets. So that's two more role players that are now in Orlando for Denver. So we'll keep you posted on who's in and who's out, so you can make the most informed bets in the NBA's return to action.
It is important that they returned, but it is also important to note for futures of when the NBA returns to action that they their work inside the bubble won't count towards any like sixth man awards or anything like that. I mean, all of these postseason awards that players will receive, the MVP, Most Improved Player, Sixth Man Award, Defensive Player of the Year, all of these awards are going to apparently be just based off of the regular season up until now, which considering that there's 8 more regular season games and there are certain teams that did not make it to the bubble, I would say that is a fair statement to make and a fair way to handle these awards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Although if you're, voting at the end of the bubble, it's going to be hard not to think about just what just happened in front of you. But it's good for guys like my guy Devonte Graham, who I love. He's one of the finalists for Most Improved Player of the Year. I hope he takes it home. Unfortunately for him, Bam Adebayo made the All Star game this year and is on a very good team. But my guy Devonte deserves that award. He is may not take it home himself, but really proud of him this year. And it just gives him a slightly better shot of saying like, hey, it doesn't matter what Bam did the last 8 games or so. Just take into consideration everything that all these guys were doing up until this point.
It's very important to remember the full scope of the season and not just this 8 game sample or this postseason sample that there's going to be. Before we do move on from the NBA, Brett, there is one more thing I do want to touch on from Matisse Thybul's YouTube channel page that he is doing because it started episode 1 of them getting on the plane in Philadelphia to fly to Orlando. So he had to get the Chick-fil-A for all the players, like his typical rookie duties are and everything. And then I think it was episode 2 shows their first practice down in Orlando, and guess what happened? The personal trainers and the people in charge of equipment for the Philadelphia 76ers forgot his shoes.
Hmm.
So he
Well,
played the first day in size 15s, and then the next day he had to play in some of his street shoes. And he said they actually worked pretty well. I forget what he played in, but I think they were all white shoes, maybe Vans or something.
okay. Well, whatever works, as long as you can get on the court and don't hurt yourself. That's all that matters. Stay healthy and get into game shape.
Hopefully they can find some size 13 basketball shoes for him by the time the first game starts, though, so he doesn't have to play in some non-NBA conforming shoes. But let's jump into the NHL because there is some coronavirus news there as well. One Oilers player admits that he tested positive, and this is interesting because the NHL said that they weren't going to be giving out the information of individual teams in terms of protecting the players and their own health information, but there are players in the NHL now that we are seeing, kind of like what we saw in the MLB, that are stepping up and they are being proactive and letting people know that they tested positive, and kind of in the sense of contact tracing of just letting you know that like, hey, in case you were around me, I did just test positive. You might want to go make sure that you don't have it right now as well.
Yeah, and I mean that's very interesting, and I look forward to the NHL hopefully coming back in soon and safely.
And I don't want to start any speculation, but there was some big news that Sidney Crosby did not practice today. Apparently, he left the ice early yesterday for an undisclosed reason, and the coach cannot touch on it.
Yeah,
So that is raising some questions as to what may be going on there, but I do not want to speculate. It could be a litany of things. It could be family issues, it could be personal issues, it could be anything.
it could be anything, but it. I think we're both thinking the same thing here.
We're in interesting times, and based off of what I said with the Oilers player and where the NHL is in terms of players' health information, that obviously pops to the top of people's minds. But
Yeah,
let's not speculate too much on Sidney Crosby
no.
and what the Penguins are doing, because there's plenty of affirmative news in the NFL, kind of like Madden taking away the Washington nickname and logo from their game. It's just going to be a generic Washington football team this year.
Well, so you raised this question to me before we clicked the record button, but you asked me, do I think the Madden without a Washington football team nickname is going to like resell in like 15 years for more money? And I thought, hmm, it's going to be tough for someone not to, update their Madden throughout the year because they want to play online. Maybe there's a big trade or a big injury. A rookie comes out of nowhere and his rating's too low, so they need the updated rating. But to your point in the question, yeah, there's definitely going to be a collector out there that wants it without the Washington whatever's they're gonna be.
It'll be very hard to not update that game and not get whatever the new Washington team name or
Right.
logo or colors, because Madden will update that. They will update the rosters like what you're saying. But if you can keep a Madden game that is just the factory normal August release date that it normally is, and it's just the version 1.0, you have to imagine that's going to become more rare as the time goes on and everyone has updated this game. So it could get to be in 15 to 20 years, looking back, maybe a 25th anniversary of it or something, that all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is the 25th anniversary of Washington's new team name. Hey, remember when Madden didn't have a Washington team name and all of a sudden it shoots up and it's worth $500 or something?
Yeah, no, it was an interesting thought, and I'm glad we got to talk about it a little bit. But staying in the NFC East, I'm seeing Demarcus Lawrence may not report to training camp for the Dallas Cowboys. So I know you're happy, Higgins.
I am very happy about that as a Giants fan. I mean, he wreaks havoc on that defensive line, double digit sacks for the past 2 years. If an offensive line does not have to worry about where Lawrence is going to be lining up, that is obviously a huge benefit for any team facing the Cowboys. But there was also some interesting news with the Cowboys in terms of Dak Prescott did not reach a deal with the Cowboys before the deadline, so he is franchise tagged and they cannot talk until the end of the season. Is this the end of Dak and the Cowboys? Is this the final season?
I don't know when it's gonna end, but it's not gonna last very long. Like they could Kirk Cousins it and franchise him twice, but that's what it feels like. It feels like franchising out or franchising out. Like he is. I don't envision him being the long term face of the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, I've heard Dak wants 5 years. He wants higher guaranteed money, whereas Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, they were pitching, I think it was 4 years, and they were at the same amount per year, but less guaranteed. And so there's kind of each side digging in their heels on what they wanted, and they did not reach a conclusion by the deadline. I would not be surprised if Dak next year is a free agent.
Yeah, I think first of all, I think Dak is right around that top 10 quarterbacks in the league, like somewhere between 8 and 12, right? So he's
I'd
right
say
there.
that's about right. I'd say around
And
8, yeah.
I think he deserves to get paid. He's been severely underpaid by NFL standards over the last 3 or 4 years. So,
Well, it was a
I
fourth round draft pick on a rookie contract, and
of
that's very
course.
beneficial for a team.
Of course. Well, yeah. Look at the Seahawks, right? Like they did it with Russell Wilson, the Cowboys did it with Dak Prescott. So, actually, now that I think about it, the Cowboys have gotten really lucky on their quarterbacks. Dak Prescott was a fourth round pick. Romo was like out of nowhere.
Hmm.
So
And it allowed them to build up that offensive line that Dallas had for the past 2 or 3 years that was really strong. It helped out Ezekiel Elliott. It helped protect Dak in time to be that young quarterback and learn how to make quicker reads. He had the time to make that progression. And I don't know if the Cowboys are valuing him as much because of the assets he has had around him, maybe.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, Dak this year with all those weapons on the offense is. I mean, do we really think he's not hitting 4,000 passing yards this year? Is like, so I mean, he's gonna put up gaudy numbers. They might be a little bit inflated because of all the weapons, like you said, but he's a talented player, and someone's gonna pay him, Higgins, because he's one of the top, like we just said, 8 through 12 quarterbacks in the league.
He will definitely get paid. He will definitely be a starter, and I don't think it'll be the same market as what's happened to Jameis Winston and Cam Newton, where for some reason it took them a while to get signed and they were undervalued and got light 1 year contracts. I think Dak would assure himself a bigger, larger, multi year contract. But it'll be interesting to see because obviously that'll come off a lot of how his final year in Dallas would go. And it'll be interesting to see when that happens. I know someone that works for an NFL team and was talking to them today, and they're still unsure of when to even report back to the facilities. They're not really getting a clear message from the higher ups. And they kind of told me best case scenario is no preseason and the season starts on time, but it could easily be a delay or maybe even spring football, like what we've heard whispers in college football. I mean, a lot seems to still be up in the air, which is why we saw what we did from the players on Twitter today.
Yeah, lots of players tweeting that they want to play, they want to come back, and the NFL has to make it safe. And I mean, I think the NFL thought they were just going to follow one of these leagues' blueprints, but the leagues basically waited till the end of July to restart. And now we've seen where COVID is in America, and it's a messy situation. I think through hell or high water, the NFL is going to play, so at least they have that going for them, I guess. But yeah, it's a messy situation. It's not good when you have all the star players in your league tweeting at you, NFL.
Yeah, Russell Wilson had a tweet because he has a pregnant wife right now. He said he wants to play, but he's concerned about players' safety and family health. There's a lot of questions about the procedures that there would be. The NFL has started to leak a little bit on Friday, but it's still very, very speculative, and it's kind of frustrating, Brett, because we have talked for months about how the NFL was in the best position of any sports league because they had this time to prepare for a season. Yet the MLB, the NBA, the NHL, they had to deal with shutting down their seasons and coming up with a restart plan. But the NFL feels like that guy in college that's writing a term paper and they put it off until the last 12 hours before it's due. Like, it's midway through July and they're still struggling to sit down with the players, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, Higgins. You would think, oh wow, look at what baseball's dealing with right now. We should probably start hammering some of this stuff out, but it looks like they just sat there in their houses and didn't pick up the phone or anything. So I don't know. I don't think this will get as muddy as the baseball one got, but it's not good. I mean, you said it. You saw Russell Wilson tweet. We saw J.J. Watt tweet. We saw Jarvis Landry. We saw. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Todd Gurley. Like there are so many elite players in this league tweeting at the league saying, "Help us come to a safe agreement here."
And if it comes down to star players sitting out for whatever the reason may be, would there be replacement players that would that be interesting to watch for the NFL? I mean, the XFL this past spring, it had that brand new flash, and the first few weeks were great, but the numbers did decline as the weeks went on.
If you bring out Gene Hackman and Shane Falco, I'm there. That's all. That's all I need. Footsteps Falco. I lost a ton of money on that Sugar Bowl, but I'm back, baby.
I want Ryan Nassib and Jerome Smith. The hay is never in the
Ooh.
barn.
No, that would be great. All the Syracuse guys, yeah. Let's get Syracuse Clemson from 2017. Let's replay that. Let's do all that.
So, I did say the NFL unveiled some news on Friday of what their procedures would be. It involved a lot of what their road trips would be for away games. Um, Team buses would only be 50% full, so there would be more team buses to and from facilities. Everyone would have their own hotel room, so that means more bookings and more logistics in that sense of where players can stay. And you can you cannot go out and eat in public, but you can get contactless delivery, apparently, is what they were saying. So the NFL's starting to leak out some procedures, starting to test the water, but it seems like they waited too long to me, and I would be surprised if the season's going to start on time at this point.
Yeah, on time. I don't know. I think the no preseason's probably a lock at this point.
Absolutely.
Um, maybe some expanded rosters to combat players going down with COVID, but um, I think they're gonna. I don't, and maybe this is naive of me to think, but I think they're gonna come to an agreement pretty quickly because they saw how muddy the MLB got, and I don't think any league wants to just drag themselves through the mud.
I think we've said about all we can say about the NFL right now. I agree they don't want to drag themselves through the mud. Some quick news from college football, though, Brett. I don't know if you saw this. Trevor Lawrence proposed to his girlfriend, similar to what you did a couple weeks ago. He did it in the Clemson Stadium, and there was a bunch of tweets and everything saying his knee wasn't down, it's a fake. But the man's getting married now, so is risking playing a season, risking getting coronavirus by doing the travel with the sports team. The man has enough tape and footage and everything to lock in to get drafted next year, to probably still be a first round draft pick, even if he doesn't play this year, I would think. Does he need to play?
I'm going to take a different take on this, Higgins. I want to examine if you're the starting quarterback for any college football team in America, why are you getting married? Like, I I would want to be the big man on campus at Clemson. I don't know. That seems like a pretty good life. But yeah, to your point, I think obviously we're first of all, congratulations, Trevor. Happy for you. I'm just kidding about why would you get married if you love her, you do what you want. But yeah, in terms of would I play, that's a personal decision too, but I think he's going to play. I think he would like to be the number one pick. I don't think it's a lock. There's a guy at North Dakota State who threw zero interceptions a year ago. There's another player at Ohio State who was the number two quarterback in the same recruiting class as Trevor Lawrence, who's decent as well, Justin Fields.
I
Uh,
don't think he's a lock to be the number one overall pick. I think he's a lock to be a first rounder. I think he's a
Yeah.
lock to get
Oh, yeah.
drafted,
But I
is what I'm
mean,
saying.
you
Yeah.
don't want to. You don't want number one overall money, Higgins. You want the number five picks money. I don't know. I.
It's a fair point. There's a lot of money to be lost in that first round, depending on where you're drafted. That is very true.
I mean, I just nothing. Nothing's a guarantee. Trevor Lawrence, as good as he was, had some interception problems a year ago, and Justin Fields and Trey Lance are two elite quarterback prospects as well. So I think you got to be out there competing.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if there isn't even a college football season. I mean, we have seen that there's going to be conference only play so far. Does that make football end up getting moved to maybe the spring? Who knows? Only time will tell. Everything's up in the air
Well,
still.
that's what the Ivy says. Ivy says spring football.
Spring football. Lincoln Riley made a strong case for it too in Oklahoma.
Have you seen the Rick Pitino stuff? Rick Pitino wanting to start the college basketball season in January, and
No.
Jim Boeheim and Kevin Willard, the coach at Seton Hall, actually disagree and said that they should start in November after Thanksgiving or during the Thanksgiving break when no students are on campus. And I thought that was an interesting dynamic too. There's just so many opinions, Higgins.
Lots of opinions, and I think that is part of what makes it so hard to come up with a consensus plan for an entire league. Is there's a lot of strong-minded individuals in sports, and they think that they're right, it's their way or the highway potentially. I mean, that's part of what makes a lot of these people so successful in professional athletics. So it'll be very interesting to see how this comes together. I think the MLB starting on Thursday is going to be a strong indicator of the possibility of team sports coming back. The NBA and the NHL soon after them, I believe next week afterwards, also starting back up at the end of July. So it's getting around there. We're going to actually start to get some concrete data of what happens when team sports start back up. But until then, who knows? But on Wednesday, episode 62, we are going to have some MLB picks for Thursday's opening day. Opening day, Brett. It's finally MLB opening day approaching.
I can't believe it. We made it, Higgins. We made it.
We made it. We will see how it goes. We will be posting on social media with some picks as well at MBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page. If you don't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. This has been episode 61 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. Sports are almost back.